What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're playing with the new Urban Decay Naked Cherry collection. I am actually super excited about this. I wasn't actually that excited about this collection until this showed up at my door, because how freaking cute is this packaging? Let me tell you, okay? Packaging and marketing work, because I wasn't hype for this collection until I saw this. So what I decided to do today, since we have a palette and we also have 3 new lipsticks and several other products, is I'm going to do a 3 looks video, except not just 3 looks with one palette, but 3 looks with the entire collection. So we will use each of the lipsticks. I will make sure that I include the setting spray, the face palette as well. Each look will be paired with one of the various lipsticks in the collection, and obviously we're doing 3 eye looks with the eyeshadow palette. Before we get started, please don't forget to leave a like on this video if you don't mind taking a second to do that, because it really helps me out and I would always appreciate that. And also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, because we'll all be really sad if you forget and then we can't find each other again. This video is going to be really long and my camera is actually about to die before we get started. I'm going to have to plug it in. So let's just zoom in and get started on the first of the 3 looks with the Urban Decay Naked Cherry collection. For the first look, I'm going to start with the color Feels and put that through my crease, just to start adding a little bit of definition. That color is a little bit more intense than I was expecting it to be, in the sense that it's like more pink and less neutral, but I like that, because looking at this palette, I thought that maybe it was going to be a tiny bit on the bland side, so I'm excited for it to be a little bit more pink. On a smaller blending brush, this is a MAC 221S. Before we get into the rest of this look, I just want to warn you guys that Charlie is snoozing right next to me, actually. Charlie had a rough day. We had to go to the emergency vet and he is now taking Benadryl. He's just kind of up here hanging out with me so I can keep an eye on him and make sure that he's okay. But the problem is that he snores a lot. So if you hear him snoring, that is why. He would like to apologize, but he can't help it. So I'm going to take a MAC 221S brush. This is clean but stained. I'm going to go into the color Bing. Just start deepening that crease a little bit with it and building up some of that mauve-y tone. I'm going to stick with the same brush, but this time I'm going to go into the shade Devilish and deepen that up even further. You notice I'm not bringing any of those shadows down onto the lid. That is because for the shape that I'm trying to create today, it doesn't really help it much to have this part of the lid have more depth. I kind of want to create like a sweeping out shape with the wing that I'm going to add, so I don't really think I need to define that at the moment. I might decide later that I want to anyway, if I feel like my eye looks a little too flat or something, but I'm going to start off not doing it, because once you do it, you can't take it back. I'm going to go into the shade Bang Bang on a MAC 219 pencil brush, and I'm going to basically pack that over the entire portion of the lid, but we didn't put it down any color yet. I lose my Fix Plus more often, I swear to God, so I'm just going to wet that with a little bit of Fix Plus. I'm gonna pick up a Sigma E30 pencil brush and go into a little bit of the shade here, Privacy. I'm going to pack that in the crease, but only on the outer portion. Next, I am going to add a wing, but I'm also going to extend the inner corner as well. I'm going to be using the new Kat Von D Inkwell liner. I just got this yesterday. I used it once and I actually think I really like it. It's so matte, which for me, on my eyelids, they have like a little bit of a crepey texture to them, so they look better with a matte eyeliner, but it's not often you find a good, really black, really matte eyeliner that's also waterproof, and this is all of those things, which is very exciting to my soul. I went ahead and cleaned up underneath my eyes with some concealer. Now I'm going to brighten up my waterline. Now, this pencil didn't come with the Naked Cherry collection. This is the Urban Decay waterline pencil in the color Walk of Shame, and I'm just gonna run this through my bottom waterline, because I want the bottom waterline to be bright and like not interrupt the shape that we created on the top. So we'll use the darker pencils in the next 2 looks. For this one, we're going nude. I do want the lower lash line to be pretty much bare for this look, but I think it needs a little bit of life to it. So I'm gonna go into the color Juicy, which is this matte, more of like a peachy tone here, on a BH number 7 brush, and I'm just gonna run that softly underneath the lower lash line. That'll give it a little bit of color and just the slightest bit of definition, but it won't make it really dark, so that it still looks like more of like a top lash line heavy sort of a look. And I'm just bringing that in right to here, just about where the extended inner corner stops. So this collection also comes with a cheek palette, which is highlight and blush. Here is what that looks like on the inside. This is actually my first time opening it, and I'm a little shocked at how bright this highlight looks. So hopefully we get a nice pop and highlight out of this. But first I'm gonna put some blush. Okay, I'm gonna take a BH number 2 and just go into the blush shade here. That's actually a nice blush. It reminds me a bit of the Tarte Amazonian Clay blush in the color, I think it's Exposed, but it's a little bit more intensely pink, but it's like in that same kind of family. But it goes on nicely. It almost has like a bit of a glow to it when you put it on the skin. It doesn't look like dull or flat or anything. It's giving my cheek a nice little amount of life. I'm just gonna pop a little on the end of my nose because whatever, I can, why not? First, I'm gonna try the more champagne tone highlight shade on a MAC. What the hell is this? 212? 2 something? The color of that's very pretty, but I do feel like it's emphasizing my texture a bit. This side, for some reason, looks better. I think my skin just looks really shitty over here right now. I mean, most highlights do intensify your texture a little bit. This just kind of happens to intensify my texture a little bit more than I would prefer that it did. I popped on the House of Blush's Iconic Lash, and I also popped on some faux freckles. I did them in the usual brown shade, but I also mixed in a few kind of burgundy cherry shade freckles using one of the Kat Von D lip liners. This is the shade Blood Milk. I didn't do a ton of them because I didn't want it to be like over the top, but I did kind of want to play into the cherry tones and that theme, kind of do something a little cutesy. I know I've been a little on a faux freckle kick lately, but I like them right now. I'm having a moment with them, so like you guys have no choice but to come along with me in that journey. This is gonna be the lighter, more wearable look of the bunch today. I don't like that term, wearable, because anything's wearable if you wear it, you know what I mean? But I wanted to keep this one like the most easy to wear, I suppose. So for the lip, I'm going to use the shade Devilish, which is a metallized pink shade, but I want to create sort of like an ombre effect. Ombre. So I'm going to use the same Kat Von D lip liner in the shade Blood Milk that I used earlier for the freckles, and I'm going to create an ombre around the edges, and I'm going to fill the center to give it like a metallic but dimensional sort of a lip effect. And this is the first look. Actually, almost forgot. Before we move on to look number 2, we have to try something first. We need to try the Cherry All-Nighter Setting Spray. From what I understand, this is just your regular all-nighter setting spray. It is a smaller bottle of all-nighter. It's a 1 ounce bottle. I believe the large bottle is usually 4. Same bomb-ass formula with a touch of cherry scented 90s nostalgia. So let's try her out. You know, it's not as cherry scented as I was expecting it to be. It has like, it reminds me of like cherry Jolly Ranchers a little bit, but it's very mild. And I think that maybe that's a good thing, because although I was expecting it to be like bam in your face cherry, and like on an emotional level, I'm a little disappointed that it's not gonna lie. But the reason I think that that might be a good thing is because heavily scented products are not great for your skin. And since this is a skin product, that's probably why, and that's probably for the best. So that's where I stand on that, but if you're expecting like banging cherry scent, it's not really intense. It's a very mild cherry scented version of the regular all-nighter setting spray, which we all know and probably love. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't like all-nighter setting spray. Yeah. Now that we tried that, we had to try it, obviously. We can move on to the second look. To start the second look, I'm going to go into the shade Juicy, which is this more peachy tone here on a MAC 217 brush, and I'm going to pack that into my crease, putting down a lot of color and then blending it out toward the brow. And I'm going to actually bring this up pretty high for a transition shade. Mattes that are kind of more midtones in this palette seem to have more brightness and a little bit more fun to them than the darker mattes. So I'm gonna add plenty of this shade in here just to make sure that we have like some like punch of color and it's not just plain old neutral. And by bringing it up almost all the way to the brow, make sure that you'll be able to see that even after all of the other colors and the more neutral shades are blended through the crease and on the rest of the eye. This collection does come with two 24/7 pencils as well, and I am going to use one of them as a base. This is the color Love Drug, which is kind of like a deep burgundy shade with a little bit of shimmer. It's very, very dark on the lid. Fill in the corner and make a darker base for some darker shadows to sit on. That way we can intensify it a little bit. So this really doesn't need to be perfect at all because we are going to blend it out, which is why I'm looking around right now because I'm looking for a good brush. I'm just gonna smudge the edges of that out a little bit because you don't really need this to be smooth, but it'll be easier to blend over it with a powder shadow if the edge isn't like extremely harsh. And to add even more depth to that before we even get into the shadows, I'm gonna pick up the other 24/7 pencil from this collection called Black Market. This just seems to be like pretty much a black pencil, which I'm confused what makes it different than their other like black pencil called Zero. It's definitely not as black as Perversion pencil, but the original black pencil from Urban Decay is called Zero, and it does look pretty much exactly the same as this, so I don't know what the difference is. But I'm just gonna put that in the outermost parts of the inner and outer corner. I'm gonna pick up a slightly fluffier pencil brush and go into the shade Bing. I'm gonna place that around the centermost part of where I put down the Love Drug pencil. On another pencil brush, I'm going to grab a little bit of the shade Devilish, and I'm going to go into the deeper parts of where we put down those pencils. I'm just gonna pack it over it and then blend it very lightly. All right, I decided I want to pull a typical Ms. Quinn face move and cut the center of this with a white base. As you already probably predicted, I'm going to be using the Kat Von D Super Brow in the color White Out on my flat Alamar Cosmetics brush. I'm going to dip into that, and I'm also going to wipe it on the back of my hand to warm it up and make it a little bit more slippery, and then use the shape of this brush just to kind of create the shape of that center portion that's going to be white. I'm going to quickly buff the edges of that down with a clean shading brush. Next, I'm going to go into the shade Privacy on a smaller pencil brush, and I'm just going to use that to blend and deepen the outer corners a little bit more. I'm going to dip it into the shade Hotspot on a flat MAC brush. This is a 242S, and I'm just going to put that on the center where we put down that white. That's going to brighten that up even more, and it'll also help us blend the edges of it into the surrounding shades so it's not just like cream into powder, you know? I went ahead and finished the other eye and concealed underneath my eyes real quick so we can start working on the lower lash line. I'm going to go back into the shade Juicy on the same BH number 7 brush, and I'm going to run that underneath the lower lash line, and I'm bringing it low, low. And also connecting it into where we put Juicy on the top. Next, I'm going to pick up Love Drug again and run that through my waterline and through my lower lashes as well. Just going to smudge that out real quick with the brush. And on the same pencil brush we used earlier, I'm going to dip into the color Devilish. I don't know why I just said I was going to shave. Maybe I'm telling myself something. I'm just gonna run that along the edge of where we put down that pencil and blend it into the peach shade and connect it into the colors on the top again. All right, I finished off the eyes with the KOKO Lashes Venus Lash, and now I am going to highlight my skin using the highlighter that we didn't use the last time, the more white one. This one has a bit of a pink shift to it. I already put a little bit more of the blush on my cheeks, in case you were wondering why I looked so rosy. So the shininess of this shade is definitely more on the subtle side, and it's definitely a pink highlight, but it's not such an intense pink highlight that you wouldn't wear it on a regular basis. It's very, as far as like colorful highlights are concerned, it's one of the more toned down ones. Personally, I think it's pretty. I like it. I don't know that I'd get a ton of use out of it. I think it makes a nice blush topper though. The lips I want to do actually almost the same technique as we did in the first one, but I'm going to use different colors. So this time I'm going to line the outer portion of the lips with the color Misfits from Kat Von D. And the lipstick color that I'm going to use for the collection is called Juicy. It is peachy, metallized, and I swatched it on the back of my hand, and it's very sheer. And this is the second look. For the third look, we're gonna start pretty much the same way we started the second look, but it's gonna be different. So I'm gonna start by going into Juicy on a MAC 217 brush. I'm gonna pack that through my crease, but this time I'm going to keep it lower, and I'm also going to flick it out into somewhat of a wing shape. I'm also going to bring a little bit of that color Juicy right down onto the lid, almost all the way to the lash line. We're going to cover the lash line with another color, so you don't really need to like make it meet. Just wanted to cover most of the lid. I'm going to pick up a MAC 268S brush. This is a synthetic fiber large angle brush that I absolutely love for using to make like smoky wing shapes. I'm going to dip that in the color Bing, and I'm going to start stamping out a wing shape with that. You may get a little fallout doing it this way. That's just the nature of the beast when you work with a really dense brush like this to like pack a color down and kind of sweep it across, you know? I'm also going to go into Devilish on a pencil brush and just start packing that a little bit more densely closer toward the lash line. The brush, changing the brush just gives me a little bit more control. So I could just like use the tip and poke it in there, you know? I'm going to pick up this flat, straight brush from Alamar Cosmetics, and I'm going to dip into the color Privacy, which is the darkest matte shade in the palette. I'm just going to do the same thing again, basically just building up the darker shade in the center of that gradient that we're making into a wing out here. I'm also going to take the pencil in the shade Love Drug, and I am going to use that just to define the lash line and kind of like bring that out into the wing as well. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the other pencil in the color Black Market, and I'm gonna use that to line my tight line. I hate doing this. And on a tiny, tiny detailing brush, I'm just gonna drag some of both of those liner shades up into that wing to make sure that it's all together. And for some reason, that picked up some of the shadow and smudged it right off, and now I have to fix it. Fantastic. I went ahead and concealed with my Too Faced Born This Way Ultra Mega Super Duper Uber Cover Concealer. And now we're gonna start working on the lower lash line. Basically what I'm gonna do is just repeat the same steps, but on the lower lash line. Starting with EYESHADOW number 7 brush, just gonna sweep that under the lashes and connect that all into the shape of the top. Blend the edge with a clean brush. On my MAC angle brush, I'm gonna go back into the shade Bing. And a little of the shade Devilish. And with each step, I'm just keeping that slightly more concentrated to create a gradient. Again, on a MAC 228S, this is a very small little detailing brush. I'm gonna go into the deepest shade Privacy one more time, pressing that into the area of the outer lashes. I'm gonna pick up the Love Drug pencil again, and I'm just gonna smudge that between my lower lashes, but not into my waterline. And just gently rubbing that out to blend it in. For the waterline, I'm gonna make that nice and deep and rich using Black Market. On a clean pencil brush, I am going to go into a little bit of the shade Turn On, and I am just gonna use that right in the inner corner on the lower half. So I'm gonna grab my Lime Crime Diamond Dew Glitter Lid Topper, I think that's what it's called, in Rose Goals on my Duo Fiber Real Techniques brush. And very similar to how we did it a few videos ago, I am going to dab this glitter over most of the lid with the brush just to disperse it more than it would be dispersed if we used it directly from the wand. I'm just gonna kind of gently create a gradient with that. And on the inner corner where I want it to be a little bit more concentrated, I'm gonna apply it directly from the wand, and then I'm going to spread it out with the brush. All right, I went ahead and popped on some House of Lashes Iconic Lashes. I love the shape that these lashes are creating on the eye with this look. Super happy with that choice. I think they kind of make the whole thing. They give me the... I also went ahead and popped on some light freckies, you know, just cuz. As well as the highlight and blush palette. Again, this time I used the more champagne shade from the highlight palette and the blush, because there's only one in there. So we have one lipstick left to try from the collection, and that one is the shade Cherry itself. This one is the only one that's not metallized in the collection, and it is a cream finish, which is nice because I really do like the Urban Decay cream lipstick formula, but I do know in advance from using them in the past that I do like them better with a lip liner. So I'm going to line my lips first with the Kat Von D lip liner in Homegirl, and then I'm going to fill everything in with Cherry. Now that is the third look. After creating 3 looks and using every single product in the collection, what are my thoughts? The palette itself, which is obviously the centerpiece of this collection, I think it's a beautiful palette. I think it's very much on par with what you would usually expect from the Naked palette. So if you like the Naked palette formula, if you like the Naked palette aesthetic, you're probably going to like it. I don't personally think it's the most exciting palette launch from Urban Decay this year. I think that the Elements palette and the Born to Run palette, for me, for my purposes, kind of blow this palette out of the water. But if you generally gravitate toward more neutral looks, more nude looks, things like that, things that are more natural, things that you might wear to work every day, and you kind of like mauve-y tones, you're probably gonna love it. I think it's a perfectly good quality palette. Just for me, doesn't set my heart aflutter like some of the more colorful palettes that they've come out with in the last couple of months. I do have to say though that I think the cherry aesthetic that they have going on in this whole collection is super, super cute. They managed to ride the line between really cutesy and really chic, and there's also like an element of like a vintage vibe going with it because cherries were very popular in like 1950s culture. So It's just kind of a callback to that in my opinion. I think the overall look of everything is super, super cute. I do wish that, like, as far as the colors were concerned, that one of these shades here was more of like a deep red instead of like a deep mauve. I feel like these are very pretty shades, but if they had included one shade that was more of a pop of color rather than a mauve in here, then it would have made the palette a little bit more interesting for me. And I would also have appreciated like a blackened deep cherry type shade to sort of make the looks a little bit deeper if necessary, because the shade Privacy over here is a dark brown red kind of a shade, and it does fill that role, but it's just not quite dark enough for me. The Naked Cherry Highlight in Cheek Palette, personally, for me, I would skip this one. I'm not crazy about the highlighter formula. The champagne shade kind of emphasized my pores a little bit. It's not bad, but it's not great. And the more pink shade that's in here, the lighter one, it is a nice subtle pink highlight, but it's not the most intense highlight-wise either. So it's subtle in its pinkness, but it's also subtle in its highlightness. The blush shade is absolutely beautiful. I actually really like this blush color, but that in and of itself is not really unique enough for me to want to buy this entire palette for that. I do think the packaging is really cute though, so there's that. The cherry version of the All Nighter Setting Spray is, like I said, a little bit more subtle in its smell, but I think that's for the best. It's typical all-nighter setting spray. I used it yesterday after I filmed the first look, wore my makeup the rest of the day. It wore exactly the way I expected to with the regular all-nighter setting spray, so they're not lying. The formula is exactly the same. The scent, although it's subtle, it is a really nice cherry scent. I was a little bit skeptical when I heard that it was cherry, because I think that cherry scented things sometimes tend to smell a little bit like those old school Luden's cough drops that my grandma always had in her pocket, and I was not looking forward to that kind of smell if it was going to be that. However, this is not. It's very, it's more of like a light candy cherry smell, and it's, like I said, it's very subtle. So if you're easily offended by smells, I would still give this one a try. Maybe if you could find it in store and sniff it, I think you might like it. Personally, for me, it's just a nice little addition to my all-nighter setting spray collection because I love this shit. Surprisingly enough for me, I think the standout from this collection, and I say surprisingly just because it's not getting that much hype, is the lipsticks. I think the lipsticks are stunning. I loved every single lip look that I did in this video. The first one that we did with the color Devilish looks so much more impressive on the lip than it does in pictures or in swatches, or just like in a picture of the lipstick itself. I was not expecting anything really interesting, and when I put it over that little bit of ombre liner, I loved the result of this. It's definitely something that I will be wearing multiple times again in my real life. Juicy is also really beautiful. I really like the metallized formula. It's almost like wearing a gloss without wearing a gloss. I really love that. I love that it's like shiny but still really light and comfortable, and I like the metallic finish that's not like grainy and dry. Love it. It's a good balance. However, it is important to mention that the metallized finishes, they're usually very sheer, which is why I personally like to put them over like an ombre lip liner. Not only does that give your lips more definition when you wear them, but I think the effect of this sheer metal finish over an ombre kind of gives a lot of dimension, and it makes them look really full and pouty, and I just really love it. And the one cream shade that I'm wearing right now, the shade Cherry, is rich, it's pigmented, it's comfortable on the lips. I love the Vice lipsticks in the cream finish. So honestly, to me, all three of the lipsticks were an absolute win in my book. They are definitely going over on my vanity to be worn on the regular basis, because the regular basis, what? That is pretty much all I have to say about this collection. Personally, even though this is not the most exciting color-wise, I did enjoy making these looks, and I really did like all three of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please, if you did enjoy these looks, or if you just enjoyed this video in general, leave a like on it, because that really helps me out and I would really appreciate it. And also, if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, because I would love to have you stick around for more videos. We have a lot of Halloween stuff and a lot of new releases coming for holiday, and I'm very excited for playing with all of that here on this channel. I would love to have you stick around and hang out and do that with me. If you feel like you want to keep in touch with me between videos, please go ahead and follow me on other social media. I'm at Miss Quinn Face pretty much anywhere you ever want to find me. But I post on Instagram a whole lot. I post on Instagram stories a whole lot. I unbox things on Instagram stories a whole lot. I run lots of polls. It's a good time, and I would love to have you come over there and join my little fam. Leave me a comment down below. Are you getting anything from this collection? Did you get anything from this collection? Do you like Urban Decay shadows in general? Do you wish that they kept the old original Naked palette around? Because part of me died when they discontinued that, okay? Its little piece of Nicole is in the ground and buried. Even though I haven't used it in years, it's the nostalgia. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know your opinion on all of that. I think that is all for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching this video. I will see you in the next one.